Hi, I'm Jen, and welcome to Flights or Growlers. Today, we're at Off Color Brewing's MouseTrap tasting room in Chicago, Illinois. This video was filmed in June of 2021, and as you can see, it was kind of a rainy day, but this is their outdoor beer garden area, and they also have an indoor tap room as well. Off Color's logo is a cute little mouse, and so it's fitting that the tap room is called the MouseTrap. They do have their production facilities elsewhere, but they do have some activities going on in here, which I'll show you in just a minute. Indoor and outdoor seating is on a first-come, first-served basis, which is notable because several breweries in Chicago have decided to do a reservation system, so that's not the case here at this point. You can see limited parking is available, so street parking or public transportation is going to be your best bet. This isn't too far from North Avenue, and it's not too far from the Red Line. You can see all of their information here is on the website, their address and hours. Now inside, they have a beautiful tap room. It's one large space, and I just love this aesthetic. You can see all of the beautiful rich wood floors, accompanied by kind of a black motif, the black ceiling, the black tile, and a concrete bar. And then a beautiful soft lighting package. It really kind of comes together to make it a nice cozy space to have a couple drinks in. You can tell during COVID there's probably usually bar stools that are at that bar, but those weren't there the day that I was there. Again, that cute little mouse logo and those windows inside to kind of take a peek in behind the scenes and see if anything's happening in there. So the day that I went, I chose to sit in the back just so I could have kind of a view of the whole place and see what was going on, kind of catch up on the vibe. And as you can see here, I'm showing the whole room. There's that bar again. Like I said, I'm assuming there's supposed to be bar stools there. It was about 2-3 o'clock on a Monday afternoon, so not a whole lot of patrons. They don't serve any food, so there's not a big lunch rush or anything like that. But a couple of the tables were taken. The menu board is up here in the back. And each of the selections has its own kind of artistic style. You can see that with the type and the art that they're using, it's all very kind of cool and modern. You'll notice if you're reading the descriptions of the beers, you've got a Farmhouse, you've got a Belgian style, you've got a wild ale. These are more of a Belgian style. This brewery is more of a Belgian style brewery. You're not going to find your big, heavy, hoppy IPAs here. You're not going to find those hop bombs, general IPAs. Not that there's anything wrong with those beers. That's just not the style that this brewery operates in. So don't expect that. If you're looking for a big old hop bomb, you're not going to find it here. They also have on every table the QR codes for the menus. So if you're sitting at the front, you don't have to get up and walk all the way to the back to see what the current selection is. So I decided to try 3 different beers. Well, I started with 3 beers. I certainly didn't end there. I tried the Very, Very Far Belgian Ale with white wine yeast, the Apex Predator Farmhouse Ale, and the Beer for Tacos goes with lime juice. So I started off with the Very, Very Far Belgian Ale with white wine yeast. This is a 6% ABV. It has a subtle nose. It smelled really bready, and it had an off-white head. Taste-wise, you do get that full, bready, yeasty Belgian feel. It had a full mouth feel, but it was effervescent, so that kind of cut through the heaviness. It was almost like a Hefeweizen. It kind of had that yeast, that banana and fruit yeast flavor to it, but it didn't have those spices that you might be used to in a Hefeweizen. It had a really rich flavor, and the white wine comes through on the finish. This is a beautifully balanced beer. I really, really enjoyed this. This is definitely one that I would order in a full size or even maybe a growler to take home. The next beer I tried was the Apex Predator Farmhouse Ale at 6.5% ABV. Now this beer is the flagship, really. This is the beer that in bars all across Chicago, they have taps of this or on draft. They've got cans of this in almost every liquor store. This is the beer that I feel like really put them on the map. This beer has been the driving force of this brewery, and I, spoiler alert, absolutely love it. I was very excited to try it in the tap house as opposed to elsewhere. See if I could spot a difference in flavor of trying it at the tap house. Really was excited to try this on draft. And this beer is really the driving force of why I chose to go to Off Color. It has a very floral nose, fruit and spice flavor. There's a minimal bitterness. There is a tiny little bitterness there, but it's really fractional. It doesn't pull through. It's really subtle. It's got spice on the finish. It's got lingering floral aftertaste. It's really just a nicely balanced, tasty beer. If you're looking for a good, solid farmhouse style ale, if you love the style, this is definitely the beer for you. This is an ongoing favorite in Chicago, and it's definitely an ongoing favorite of mine as well. So the next beer, unfortunately, I lost my footage on. It's the beer for tacos, goes with lime juice. You'll see it here in a still photo in the middle of the screen. On the left is that Apex Predator, and on the right is hand sanitizer. Don't worry, I didn't try that. But beer for tacos, is, like I said, is a goes with lime juice and salt at 4.3% ABV. It's got a nice citrus nose to it. It's a little bit paler in color than the other beers that I tried, and a slight sourness on that nose. So when you take your first sip, this beer is extremely lime forward. The lime hits you right away, and then you get that salt. The salt comes on in the finish. It's almost magical because you go from lime to salt, and then the sour kind of carries through the entire sip. This is really nicely balanced. It was surprising to me. I wasn't expecting, even though it says lime juice and salt, I guess I wasn't quite expecting it to be as flavorful and full as it was. This beer would 100% be great with tacos. I guess that's why they call it beer for tacos. If you would normally have a margarita, this is a really good substitute for a margarita. If maybe it's a night you don't want to have tequila, it's a really good alternative on its own. Just in the tasting portion, I felt like by the time I ended the tasting of this particular beer, I was done. I didn't need any more. I had a good idea of what the flavor profiles were. So I definitely feel like it's a beer you should be drinking with food. I wouldn't just sit on the back porch and sip this one. I would definitely choose this for my taco dinner. And at 4.3%, you can definitely have a couple. So the next thing I want to chat about was I did mention that they do have a little bit of production here, and that is because of these barrels. These barrels are called Foeder barrels. They are from the wine production in Europe. And what's great about these barrels is they put the beer in these old wine barrels, and then they let them sit 14 months, 20 months, what have you. And the beer sits and absorbs all of the flavors of what was previously in the barrel and the barrel itself. And all of that flavor kind of melds together with the goodness that's already in the beer. And oh my goodness, the results are phenomenal. So like I said, I didn't just have those 3 beers. I moved on to a couple that had been barrel aged in these beautiful, beautiful large barrels. And that's what I'm going to talk about next. So first up is the Miscellanea. This is a Foeder fermented wild ale at 6.2% ABV. This beer had barley wine on the nose. When I put my nose up to it, that's exactly what I felt like I was about to dive into. A barley wine. It was, on the taste, it was tangy and alcoholic. It was sour, but it was complex. I also got chocolate, raisins, resin. It had a full mouthfeel, but it did have kind of a sour, thin aftertaste, which I wasn't quite expecting. It was a beautiful amber color with a cream head, and then I got this really nice finish of red wine. This beer was fantastic. Now, I do have to say I tasted it warm. not even slightly chilled. This had been poured out for another group tasting and hadn't been drunk. And so it was offered to me by the bartender very nicely. And so that's the only reason why I got to taste this particular beer. It was otherwise not available. But it was so, so delicious. It was so complex. It was really more for a tasting portion. Again, I don't know if I could sit there and, drink a big full glass of this because it had so much going on. But I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm super glad I got to taste it. So for my last beer, I asked the bartender, what do you recommend as the beer that I shouldn't leave here without trying? What is this special beer? What do I really, really want to try, leave and not regret? And she said the Squoke at 5.9% ABV. It's another Foeder aged wild ale. She said it's pretty rare and it's a staff favorite. And when I tasted it, I could see why. It had a very clean nose, soft floral notes, and you could smell that bread again, that yeasty bread. It tasted a little sour, but it had a bright, clean flavor, a lot of citrus coming through. This really honestly felt more like I was drinking a wine than a beer. It had that beautiful citrusy sour thing going on. It was so tasty, so unique, and I am really glad that I was able to try this beer. On the way out, you'll see there on the right, they do have a cooler with all of their to-go cans ready to go. And then on the left, they do have a small selection of merchandise available, a couple of t-shirts and sweatshirts, and I think some items for dogs, that kind of thing. I would really love more merchandise that has their unique artwork on it. I really love that style of graphics and everything they're doing in that regard. So that's my plea. Next time I'm there, I hope they have more with their artwork on it. Anyway, I was so thrilled that I was able to go to Off Color Brewing. It was a fantastic experience. It's a beautiful tasting room, the MouseTrap. Their beers are phenomenal. I am so glad I got to go. If you enjoyed this video, guys, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe or to hit that like button. And if you really like us, hit that notification bell, and every time we have a new video come up, you'll get that personalized notification. Have you been to Off Color Brewing? If so, please leave me a message down below. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like. And that's going to do it for me today. For Flights or Growlers, this is Jen, and I'll see you at the brewery.